Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We're here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Carrie's already laughing. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. So we started this new bloopers episode. You guys will see it on Instagram, but I just feel like now that we did it, we keep having more and more bloopers, and we'll have lots of content for social media because
all the more to pull from.
And if anyone knew what led up to having this conversation, like what went on as Jessica and I are just preparing, we had all sorts of incoming.
Yes, it actually.
Jessica has a very busy household today, and her kids are last finals and job application. She's like multitasking beyond today.
Yes, that is true. But I also think it's an excellent segue into our guest today, because as I'm trying to prepare my kids for all their next and first adulting steps, our guest today is actually a moderator for a very large university, for University of Florida, for their Facebook parenting page. So please welcome today to our show as our guest, Margie Sachs. Hi, Margie.
Hey, how is everybody doing today?
Good. We're so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
So just give us a brief background. Do you have kids still at UF? How old are your kids?
My youngest graduated last year, and my son just graduated law school last year. So I have no children in college anymore, which is bittersweet because having, the kids in college was, especially at UF, as a UF grad and a daughter of a UF grad and a sister of a UF grad. That was, just incredibly fun having kids there and sort of not reliving my UF days, but enjoying their UF days.
Mm-hmm. So your family bleeds orange and blue. Is that what we're hearing?
Yes. Yeah. My children are third generation Gators. My son was a third generation Gator and a third generation Pie Lamb. He came home from the hospital on a board to go to UF onesie and learned how to do the Gator chomp and say go Gators before he learned how to walk and talk. So yes.
Well, I'm glad it all worked out that way.
Me too.
Right? I mean, you had little control over that outcome, but congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So why do you want to be a moderator of a parent Facebook group? And I'm assuming you started before, when your kids were there, correct?
Well, it's a what and a how.
So what happened was I was acquaintances with a girl who started this particular page, and my understanding from her is she had a fallout with the moderators of her son's class page. And at the time, they don't do it anymore. UF actually did all of that. They had individual class pages and they had moderators and admins. They didn't do a great job because obviously they had other things to do. So if you posted something, it might get approved, 2-3 days later, whatever it is. So she started this page, and all of a sudden one day I look and I'm a moderator and I'm like, what? Like, how am I? And I don't know whether she knew that I had moderated other pages. So anyway, that's how it all happened. And I learned along the way so many things about UF and parenting and issues. And it's been fascinating, really, to see how it's progressed. When I got on the page, I want to say there was like less than 5,000, and I checked yesterday and there's over 30,300 now.
That's crazy.
It's big and it's fun. And we have a good time, I mean, they ask some very, deep questions a lot, and then we get the same questions over and over. I mean, I don't know if either of you are on that page, but we get the same questions over and over,
I
which can be
am
sort of
on that page.
frustrating. Yeah, you see that.
Yes, I do, and you just wonder, but I guess the same could be said for any page that you're on. Why don't you just go to the search bar first and ask your
Search,
question there to
right,
see what
right.
you're
Mhm.
I'm just going to assume that maybe people don't know how to use that part of the group page.
Correct,
But
I'm
correct.
but
Not
I'm
yeah,
I'm
everybody
gonna I'm gonna go with that every parent's burning question is, like, the
the most
top
important,
priority, is the
right,
most important thing, and they wanna ask it, and they want an answer.
right, and but
yeah,
then
but
you
Especially
the
do
like,
have
that we
I'm sorry, go on.
we actually came up with it says freshman Gators bingo card with the most popular questions that
Mhm.
get asked, and we posted, like, "If you see it on this card, use the search because you'll find all the answers there." So it
That's
includes, "When do football tickets go on sale? When is fall family weekend? Where can I find a tutor? Which dorms are the best?" Go over and over and over and over
Uh-huh.
and over again. So,
right.
um, we don't mind. People get asked, and then some people are really good, and they just copy other posts of the same question and then just put it underneath because nobody wants to be rude. So we just answer them because that's the type of group that we are.
Mhm. That's awesome, but I would say a lot of I wouldn't say the same is true for a lot of parents commenting. Some of them are rude. Some of them do get rude, and
Some of them,
do you post those? Do you put well, obviously, you don't pull all of them because people see them, but how do you handle that when parents are answering
oh,
each other in
And
a
not being nice,
yeah,
not
not
playing
in a
nicely in
kind
the
way?
sandbox, yeah.
unless those answers get reported, those comments get reported, I don't know about them. I don't have
Mhm.
time to moderate every single question because there are dozens of them a day. Some of them do get reported, and I do delete them, and I have taken people out of the group and banned them because we don't that's just not the type of group we are. I mean,
Right.
I commend the 30,300 people in that group for being kind and helpful and
Yeah.
thoughtful. And I think the group is extraordinary. And I can't tell you how many personal messages I get that say, "My kid is graduating. I got to tell you that the 4 years were just amazing, and I learned so many things from this group. And thank you so much for the help." And we get that over and over again. And I hear the opposite about a lot of other school groups. So I don't know how it all happened, but that's what we get. And I think if you were to follow the page, you would see that everybody's sort of real. I mean, we do have a couple of not great people that do not answer questions or are rude, but I think for the
For the most part.
large part, overwhelmingly, it's a very
Mhm.
helpful group, and we're all there for the same reasons, which is just to make sure our kids are happy and successful while they're at the University of Florida.
Yes, and then I noticed recently there was another I believe she was a parent, I don't think she was a moderator, but you had one commenter who posted the breakdown of so many different majors about what to expect, what the critical tracking courses
Yes.
were. I mean, those were so helpful. It's such a
Yeah.
great resource for so many parents.
Yes, her name is Adriana. She is not a moderator. She's a moderator for a couple of the other individual class groups, but not the big page. But she does a lot of research, and her posts are super helpful. And she does
Yeah.
do that. She goes major by major by major by major. Her daughter is pre-dental, so she knows the whole pre-med track, which is
Mhm.
a whole thing
Different
altogether.
thing, yeah.
A lot of parents, a lot of these kids are first generation, and their parents never went to college, and I am
Sure.
personally in touch with, I don't know if you remember, we had a student who came in through the foster care system that I helped. I found out about it through a page, and she was showing up at UF through the foster care system. And we got a
Wow.
group together, and people were donating Amazon cards to her and dorm supplies. And she, how, now we're dealing with her major, and she didn't understand a lot of things. And I was explaining to her, she thought she could just take a bunch of classes and then drop which ones she didn't like. I'm like, no, don't work that way. So we're trying to help her with majors. I put her in touch with a couple of parents to discuss certain majors. She did well her first year, so working through that. But that's where I'm talking about. It's all come together where we have this amazing group of base parents who are just so helpful and give so much information that you're not going to find, not even on the UF page. I mean, they
Mhm.
really break it down to its essence with regard to majors and what you need to do to get through these majors. And I think a lot of times students, they show up at college without a plan. What's your plan? What's your
Right.
plan when you get here? You need a plan, especially if you are planning on any type of post grad school, whether it's law school or any type of health, medical, dental, vet, whatever. You need a plan because whatever you do in school is not just limited to your studies. If you're doing that, you need a lot more. And the schools you're going to be applying to are going to expect a lot more.
Mhm.
So I
Sure.
think a lot of kids don't get that. And it's hard to have them understand at such a young age. You need your plan when you step foot on that campus. What is your
Right.
plan? So I think that's important to get to students to have them understand that. I know it's a pain and I know it's hard to understand that, but you need that plan.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of kids leaving their house for the first time, that's not what they're thinking. They're
Correct.
thinking, "I'm on my own, I'm independent, I'm gonna have a great time," and
Correct.
they learn very quickly that
Mhm.
that's not a path to
A
success.
lot of times parents will ask questions about certain things. And I'm just coming off the top of my head. Does anybody know a person I can get in to clean my son's apartment? Or where can I get meals delivered to my son or whatever? And some parents are rude. And this is where, going back to a couple questions, they should be able to figure that out on their own. Well, no, that's not the way this works. I mean, parenting, one of my favorite quotes is, parenting gets easier as your kids get older, said no parent ever,
Oh.
ever. I mean, the issues just get bigger and bigger and bigger. I
Mhm.
remember stressing out about the science fair projects,
Uh-huh.
multiply that by a gazillion. I'd give anything to go back to
No
science
sense.
fair
Yeah.
projects.
Right.
Yeah.
So, these are to help students, these are to help kids. A lot of these kids, as you said, are gone for the first time in their lives. Some kids have never slept a day out of their bed. I was very fortunate. Both my
Mhm.
Right.
kids went to sleepaway camp for forever. So, and my daughter went, to a semester in high school overseas. So this to us was just another goodbye. For a
Right.
lot of people, this is their first goodbye, and
Yeah.
it's traumatic a lot of times. So
Mhm.
anything a parent can do to help their student is perfectly fine, regardless of what that help may be. That's my philosophy.
Right.
Don't tell somebody else how to parent their child because their child's experience growing up and your child's experiencing growing up, culturally, socially, whatever, are completely
Mhm.
different. So let this parent get the information they need to help their student.
Yeah.
I appreciate that
100%.
way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Appreciate your perspective on that.
Um,
I think also, social media has also allowed us to become so judgmental of other people and their parenting, sitting
Absolutely.
behind what do they call it? Keyboard muscles, where you can say
Yeah,
whatever you
yeah,
want
yeah.
to someone,
Keyboard warrior.
because right, because you're behind a screen, no one knows who you are. But it's true. Okay, so maybe your child is completely independent and knows how to do their laundry, knows how to cook a good meal for themselves, but maybe somebody else's doesn't for whatever reason.
mhm.
Just everybody's going at their own pace here. We're not here to judge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, what is
Exactly.
the ideal time for a parent to join this page? Is it when on decision day? Is it preview? Is it prior to that when they show up on campus? Do you have a recommendation there?
We get parents joining literally while the kid is in high school. So it's because there's a lot of information on there that would maybe have a parent say, I'm not sure that this is for my kid.
Right.
UF is very competitive.
Mhm.
Certain majors are killer with their weed out classes.
Oh, yes.
Lots of kids, we know this, lots of kids start off in a major and those weed out classes just are not going to happen. So they have to switch majors. And I'm going to target two of them, all the pre health, all the pre med, pre dent, whatever,
Mhm.
and then business. I mean, those are super, maybe computer too, but definitely the organic chemistries, the biologies, and then you go over to the business side and you've got the two accounting classes and then business finance, which my son was a business major and he still has PTSD from business finance. So,
Well, I'm
that's
gonna
just
my
the work.
my son, is entering as, business finance major, so, I might, need some coaching through those classes for
Oh,
myself.
lots of tears
Um
involved from both me and my son. The good news is, though, the good news is that he got a C plus. It was the first, and this is go. I'm going to expand on this. This was the first C he ever got in his
Mhm.
entire life. We
Yep.
Okay.
were just jumping up and down that he passed the class,
Mhm.
but then he ended up in law school, which we knew, and he got the highest grade in his business entities class in law school. So I'm like, okay, well, there you go. I mean, it
Right.
it it
Yeah.
it actually worked out okay,
Mhm.
but w one of the things that we get, post on about, which are really heartbreaking are and it's increasing every year, is the questions about mental health availability as
Mhm.
far as treatment is concerned,
Mm.
and there have been parents, and I've seen and it's more than just a few, that say, "I need help. My kid is just was taken to Shands after trying to commit suicide." That has
Mhm.
happened. One of them, I remember specifically, her son got an email from his professor that he had failed an assignment, and the kid, when he got that email, tried to commit suicide and was
Oh
on
my
his way to
gosh.
Shands. Um, for a lot of these kids, they are not used to even getting a B sometimes, let alone a C
Right.
or failing. So mental health has been significantly
Mhm.
impacted. I always go back. Is it COVID? I mean, maybe a lot of these kids were, obviously COVID had a lot of impact on everybody, but what I think
Right.
every year that we get these kids coming through, depending on where they were when COVID hit, sometimes it's a little bit worse. But culturally, a lot of times, these kids are having their parents behind them, in their ears, in their ears, in their ears. And the parent may want them to do something with regard to major, and the kid doesn't want to do it. And there's always a clash there. There's always questions about, my kid got a B, can they still get into medical school? Well, of course.
Right.
So the mental health problem, I think people get very caught up in the fact that, well, I was a national merit finalist, and I got a B or I got a C, and that hits kids very, very
Mhm.
difficult. It's a
Mm.
very difficult realization that you're not gonna be number 1 anymore. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
So what do you do on your page in terms of guidance for mental health issues? Are there UF services or places you can guide them, because I'm assuming no moderator is equipped to handle some other child's mental health concerns.
Correct, and luckily, a lot of parents are very, willing and able to offer, guidance. So UF does have a, mental health, I don't know if it's a facility, but at the student health center, they're not. It's not like you can call them and get somebody on the phone right away, but and unfortunately, I think they're kind of understaffed, but people do have very
Yes.
good things to say about them. But
Mhm.
there are also providers in Gainesville. I refer to somebody. There's a particular woman I refer to all the time, who I know. And if they have to end up at Shands, then so be it. I
Mhm.
mean, it
Mm.
it it is what it is. You don't want a child's life to be in danger because of
Mhm.
something like that. And unfortunately, this past year, there was UF doesn't want to talk about it, but there was a suicide at Honors Village, that was, horrible.
Mm.
Um, and it happens every year, and it's not just UF,
Mm.
it's every
Right.
Of
college has
course,
has
yes.
that
Mhm.
happening every year. So,
Yeah.
but like I said, I think that in my experience, because I have been moderating this page for 8 years, so I can see the trends. I do see a lot more of the mental health issues popping up when these kids enter college. Were they able to disguise them all along and have scaffolding that they were able to use while going through, primary school? Perhaps. but then they get to this incredibly, competitive, stressful
Yeah. Mhm.
situation. Again, going back to, was this their first time leaving home? How
Right.
far away are they from home? Did they show up with any friends? It's a lot. It's a
Mhm.
lot. So if there's anything underlying, this is going to be the time that the parents may
It
see that.
surfaces. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Do you have any connection with UF to tell them, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing. What can you do to help these students?" Does that
I do
ever come into
not.
play? No, okay.
I do not. I wouldn't even know who to contact, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I believe, UF, it's a very large school,
Yeah.
and we've got another group called Swamp Watch, which is a group of parents. I'm in that too. I started with the foundation of that group because UF has, like a lot of other schools, safety concerns around campus. We've
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gainesville has a unhoused population that I
Yes.
know you've seen them, and sometimes they get a little aggressive with
Yeah.
students, and there's
Mhm.
issues going on. And we've been in partnership with UFPD and Gainesville PD, and we actually got them to coordinate efforts to um, at least patrol together around campus, like close to campus. Because don't forget, UF has their own police department,
Right, right,
Gainesville
right.
has their police department. UFPD can look to the city of Gainesville area, but they weren't really able to partner with them. Now they're
Right.
doing that. We have written a ton of emails to, starting with DeSantis all the way down to UF, at UF boards of directors, and have gotten zero response. So it's I
That's
even if
disappointing.
you were to get somewhere with them, I don't know that anything would be done. But with the mental health, they do have people on campus. They do get very good reviews. People have said their children have been helped tremendously. But again, it's a very large university with very limited
Mhm.
resources in that sense. So students would probably have to go off campus to private providers if they couldn't get into the UF provided facilities.
Mhm. So, you mentioned mental health. Since you've started this, have you seen any other trends with parents and their students?
I think what we're seeing a lot of now, and it's completely understandable based upon the research that's been coming out, is anxiety with both students and parents over internships and jobs. That
Mm.
seems to have been really impacted over the past, say, 3 years. I know when my kids were at UF, my daughter just graduated, so she had a little bit of that, but my son graduated in 2022, and it wasn't as difficult. But I we see it really, it's really everywhere. But where I'm seeing it impacted the most is the engineering and computer. Yeah,
I have one of those.
and
I have
when
a
I
m my
yeah.
son is a mechanical engineer there.
Well, I will tell you that when you think about these kids who started 4 years ago in that industry and for that major, and how that industry has been impacted by AI over the past few years, what they thought they were starting with and what they're ending with are completely different things. And I think it's important to understand what's out there and how this is impacting what you thought was going to be your profession, and
Mm,
figure out how you're going to pivot to make
yeah.
it work for you. And I think that's, I don't, but I think that's hard because you don't know where the next thing is coming from. What's
Right.
next
Mhm.
up? You know,
Right. Right.
it's really hard. And, you heard the booze going on at UCF and other schools when those commencement speakers were talking about AI and how great it was. And they're, no, it's really not.
Right.
Not for us, not for people who are coming out and need
Mhm.
employment. It's not so great. And I think it's important to understand what's happening, and again, how you're going to pivot. Again, what's your plan? It's very hard. I feel for these kids. I really do. I feel for these kids.
I think it's a consideration for parents, and I like the fact that you're suggesting that they participate and join these pages while their kids are in high school because there are pros and cons that you as a family have to weigh
Correct.
when sending your child to a large school, right? I
Correct.
mean,
Correct.
all every kid is seeking in their major the same internships. and there's only so much the university that can do to have these relationships. So it gets back to, is my child what's their end goal, right? If their
Exactly.
end goal is to try to get an internship, right, like, are smaller schools better for that? I don't know. Or what can we do as a family to start, networking or helping our child teach them how to network so they're not just relying on school or school resources.
Exactly. And schools have career centers. UF has a gigantic career center, and they actually have counselors for different majors and different things. So I don't know that a lot of students take advantage of that
Right.
because, God forbid they should have to show up in person for something. I mean,
Right.
it's just, you know what I mean? Like they have to make the effort to go.
Mhm.
And I think for a lot of students, it's just that's not in their bandwidth to actually
Yeah.
show up in person. A lot of classes at UF are online, so this whole in person thing is not comfortable for them. But the resources are there, and they also need to understand that, like in business school, okay, every finance major is busting for the same positions, the same
Right.
internships, the same jobs. What can you do to set yourself apart?
Mhm.
UF has like some type of finance club, and they go to competitions and stuff, and even getting into them is competitive, but you have to make the effort to
Yeah.
find a way to put something on your resume that's going to set you apart from other people. Like I said,
Mhm.
just going to college and getting A's isn't going to do it. That
Right.
doesn't work anymore. It just
Right.
doesn't. So you need to figure out a way to set yourself apart. It's very difficult. These companies get thousands and thousands of resumes. One thing I had my daughter do, and I saw this on a gigantic parent page, people aren't looking at your resume when you submit that resume. It's going through an AI system.
Mhm.
Mm.
So you need to make sure that that resume is going to make it through that AI system. And looking for a job is a full-time job. You need to take phrases from the posting and make sure that your resume has those words and phrases so it can make it through the AI system. What I saw, which I thought was a brilliant idea, but of course kids these days are like, "What? They don't know how to do it," is print that letter, print out your resume, get an envelope,
And
find that
mail it.
AR the
Yep.
HR manager, stick it
Mhm.
in the mail.
Mhm.
And that's how my daughter actually got her job. I suggested
Wow.
that to her, and she had been trying to connect with a person
Mhm.
on LinkedIn who was not connecting with her at all. And then all of a sudden one day she got a message on LinkedIn, "Hey, I have a letter on my people are telling me I have a letter on my desk and the name is yours. Is that you?" And she said,
Mhm.
"Yeah." Well, guess what? She's now working for this company. It's
They're
one of the
probably like,
largest
"A
media companies
letter?
in the world.
What's this?
I know.
An
I know.
envelope?"
Exactly. But
Oh my
sometimes,
god. Mom had
we
a good idea?
I know,
Mom
but
had a good idea? What?
we are of the generation, because my husband kept telling her, because we're in New York a lot because my sister-in-law lives there. He would say, "Just take your resume and walk into a building," and like I'm like, "Yeah, that used to work, but she's got to get through security and she'll probably be arrested. Like you can't just walk in anymore. It doesn't work like that."
Mhm.
So, we're just of this generation that's how I would get my job. I'm a lawyer. I'd get my legal jobs knocking on the door. "Hey, can you please give this to the partner?" And that's how it worked. It doesn't work like that anymore. So you have to be
Yeah.
creative. You have to
And
understand
resourceful.
how
That
this whole
I
thing
think that's
works. Exactly.
yes. You know, I think something that I keep telling my incoming freshmen is your relationships. You have to begin from the very beginning,
Mhm.
developing your relationships with the professors. I know you say that there could be hundreds of kids in the class. Go to office hours, whatever it is, you
Yep.
need
Yep.
to
Mhm.
make your face known. People
Mhm.
need to be able to put a face with your name because when it comes time for recommendation letters, who are they going to know?
Exactly.
How are they
This
going
is
to know who to write a letter for?
We had this question pop up a couple weeks ago where a mom said, "My daughter is applying to medical school and she's having trouble getting letters of recommendation done." And everybody who responded basically said exactly that.
Mhm.
What was her plan coming in? Did she, and when we say a plan coming in, we mean like the day you step foot on that campus, who are your professors? Have you communicated with them?
Mhm.
Did you go to office hours? Did you send emails? If you did really, really well, did you apply to become a TA or a research assistant? This is what it comes down to.
Mhm.
You can't expect people to write you recommendation letters if they don't know who you are. It doesn't work
Sure.
like that. And you have to understand that nationally, there are 16% of the students who start off on these medical tracks. And don't forget, pre-med is not a major, pre-med is a track.
Right.
6% get into medical school. So
That
there's a
is
big difference between
insane.
the kids who start off wanting to be doctors and go to medical school and those who get in. And that difference could be, what did they do when they were in college?
Mhm. Right.
I need to have a backup plan. You need to have a backup plan. What if this doesn't happen? Medical school is I didn't realize how hard medical school was to get into until I started this page. I had no idea. I just, okay, yeah, medical school, it's hard.
Right.
You have to,
Mhm.
there's a lot of work involved. I had no idea. Like it is,
Yeah.
so every time I go see a doctor and I'm like, oh my God, you're a doctor. That's so cool. You must have worked so hard. Like I have a whole different
Mhm. Respect.
appreciation
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
doctors now because of the work I know that went into getting to where they are.
Yeah, so many people now are gap years and taking that time to either do clinical work
Yep.
or
Or
Yep.
establish a
research or
relationship with a
yep, all
doctor
that.
in some
Mhm.
capacity, working for
Yep.
them, researching for them,
Yeah.
scribing, whatever it might be. But people,
Well, because
again,
it's so hard when you're
yeah.
taking those courses, it requires, right, 110% of your effort to just study and get through the
Mhm.
courses, and then all those other things that you're supposed to be doing to get experience, like, where do
Correct.
you have the time for that? And we do. We all want our kids to have a social life,
Right.
right? We
Right.
want them to experience where they're living for 4 years.
Right.
Now, gap years are becoming, I think for medical school, it was always pretty normal. And like nobody thought you were like weird if you took a gap year or two. Where I'm seeing it's becoming pretty normal too is law school.
Mm.
I'm a lawyer. When I was in law school, gap years just weren't a thing and they haven't been a thing for a while. But I'm thinking, not I thinking, I know, I see that. And the truth of the matter is, when my son went to law school, and despite the fact that he was held back in preschool because he's got a July birthday, so we wanted him to sort of have that extra year, and
Sure.
so he's technically like kind of a year older than a lot of people. When he got to law school, he was still among the younger people there
Mhm.
because
Huh.
people had taken gap years, they had
Right.
worked, they had gotten their MBA, they went to graduate school, whatever the case may be. So again, get that experience. Law schools love when you have worked because it shows a maturity, it shows a dedication. You've Anytime you're working, whether it's literally at fast food or, as a doctor, you will have life experiences that help you understand certain situations. So when you are dealing with those certain situations, you're going to have a real life experience as to what the outcome could be and how you might have been able to change that. And I think that's where law school and taking that gap year is just becoming more and more important. Especially, and also law school is kind of expensive, so you can earn some money along the way, even
Yeah.
better.
Right.
You know,
I'm curious if you have any experience on the page with professors. Do any professors join, or are there posts about professors and that they've been helpful or they're not responsive? Does that come up for you at all?
we do have. un- Unfortunately, the popular professors are the really, 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 really difficult ones. So, like the business finance ones and the
Right,
organic
right, right,
chemistry
right.
ones, like those are the real. Those are the ones everybody, everybody, regardless if your student is a business major or a pre
Knows
health major, you know the
knows
names.
their
I mean,
name.
because they're
Yeah.
always on the page. But
Yeah.
no, we do have people when parents ask, my child needs to take this class. Who do you recommend? And everybody's like, that professor, that professor, that professor, that professor. So it's the same professors come up. And we do have UF professors on the page. So
Okay.
when issues come up, and I know, Jessica, you've seen this in the past few weeks, the honor lock issues that happen. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Oh
has
my
been
gosh,
a
yes.
bit, yes, been
What
horrible.
what is that?
Okay. So honor lock is, and this is again something that we never experienced as, adults. A lot of times when kids are taking these exams, it's online and there's something called honor lock. So it's proctored through honor lock, and there have been issues with that where students get locked out, or they're maybe they heard a noise and they look to the left or to the right, and honor lock picks that up as cheating. So it's a
Oh,
huge issue.
okay.
And what there was some was it Yale? I think that now is mandating that every exam be done in person, which I 1000% agree with. Like, just get it done in
Yes.
person. Just get it
Mhm.
done. And it causes a tremendous amount of stress because some of these kids are supposed to graduate the 2 days later, and meanwhile they
Yeah.
get knocked. They get called up for a honor code violation because of honor lock. We have professors that are super helpful, say, hey, UF professor here, this is what I suggest you do. So we do have professors on the page that give really good suggestions with sticky situations like that. And to me, that's like the best recommendation as far as what to do is from somebody right there with boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's funny because I couldn't tell you one of my kids' professors' names. I I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
that,
know their names either.
but I will share a story, the end of fall semester, um, my son called me in a panic. I think I'm dropping a class. There's no way I'm getting
Mm,
through it. I said, "Listen, before you make any decisions, I want you to go to the engineering office and sit down with an advisor, tell them what's going on, and also he's on scholarship, he's part of the Bright Future Scholarship, so talk to them if that has any effect on your scholarship. Just get your facts and all your ducks in a row before you make any decision." He did that, and then he was like, "Okay, I think I'm gonna drop. This is what's going to happen." And then I said, "I'm going to offer you one more suggestion. Please, before you drop, reach out to your professor, tell him your thought process and what you're going through, what you're experiencing." So, my son did that, and within an hour, the professor reached back out to him. They arranged a Zoom meeting, and the professor said to him, "What is your goal in this class?" And my son said, "I just wanna pass the class so I don't have to take it again." And he said, "We can do that. Meet me here for office hours. We'll go over this and that." And then he said to him, I really commend you for reaching out to me because so many people just drop the class when there is a way for them to get through it if they just reach out and ask for help." And my son ended up with a B in the class. So it was
Perfect.
the lesson there is talk to your professors. I'm not saying all of them are
Yeah.
going to be kind and
mm-mm,
helpful,
right.
but the answer is always going to be they're not kind or helpful if you don't ask.
Right. My son
So
did the
Yeah.
same thing with business finance, and he made that he had the professor understand. And I'm sure my son's not going to like when I say this, but the very first exam, I mean, the amount of calls exactly. Oh my god! The first
sure.
exam, I kid you not, my son got a 10% on the
Okay.
first business finance exam, and I think I could get a 10%, and I've never even taken the class before. I mean, but he got a 10%. I'm like, "Oh my god, how is he gonna pass this class?" And long story short, he did talk to the professor. He made the professor understand he was not a finance major. That was huge. Not a
Okay.
finance major. What can I do? And they set up a plan, and he ended up getting a C plus. Like I said, exactly like your son, all he needed to do was pass that class. And
Yeah.
professors know these classes are hard.
Or yeah.
They appreciate the fact that these students are brave enough to let them know this is hard for me. I need help. What can I do? And hopefully most of the time the professors are that's what they're paid for. This is what you can do. This is how I can help you.
Mhm.
It's not easy, but
Right.
it's definitely a way to go about figuring out whether or not do I need to drop this or is this passable? Because passable is sometimes all you need. Really,
Right.
Yeah.
passable is
Right. Right.
sometimes all
Yeah.
Right.
you need.
I think this is a critical skill, and this is not for us to solve, but this is a critical skill that our kids should be learning in middle school and high school. And it's just really unfortunate that everything's become so stressful and it's all about the grade immediate. And we're not allowing the time for kids to, when they struggle, then learn the skill to go get help and that the teachers are willing at that. You know what I mean? I feel like if they had
I
more
hear you.
practice at this wouldn't be the first time when they're 18 and 19 years old having to do this, unless it's just did the parents do it for them up until this point, and now that they're not there, I don't know, but I
No,
feel like there's something missing.
no, but you're right because, when your kid's in elementary school, middle school, high school, you kind of have to advocate sometimes on behalf of your child.
Mhm.
You set up the parent meetings and well, now they're in college and, I help my kids. I didn't advocate for them. I said, this is how you advocate for yourself. This is what you need to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Going back to the very beginning of this
Mhm.
conversation, our job as parents is to teach our children. And sometimes that teaching has to happen later than you may want to
Mhm.
for whatever reason. And if that happens in college, learning how to advocate for yourself, then so be it. This is what you need to do. This is how you set this up. This is what you tell the professor.
Mhm.
And
Right.
it may take 2, 3, 4 times for them to understand, okay, I know what to do. I'm out there. But again, you said it's a skill. It's a
Mhm.
learned skill. And
Yes.
we're parents. That's our job. That's our
Mhm.
job.
Is to guide them in the right direction and
Yeah.
teach them self-advocacy.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think this is a great way to wrap up as we are super grateful for Margie coming on with us today to explain her experience as a moderator of a very, very large university in Florida.
And a very
Um,
large Facebook group as well.
yes, yes.
Mm.
So we appreciate all of your insights. We hope this has been super helpful for parents, whatever stage that they're at, whether their kids are in high school or already in college or, maybe graduation is upon them, but it's never too late to learn these things and share with your kids, guiding them, as Margie suggested, and being with them as we teach the advocacy skills. So
Can
thank
I
you
just
so
tell
much.
everybody what the name of the
Yes,
page is? Because
absolutely. Yes.
we're
Promote your
because
page, please.
yeah, no, I'm not promoting the page for any other reason other than there are tons of pages out there that are really set up by data
Yes.
mining people,
Okay.
and have no affiliation with the university. Not that this has any affiliation with the university, but there are a ton of university people on it, including the University of Florida. But we're not in it to do anything except help families and
Mhm.
students. That's all. I'm not selling any information, nothing. It's kind of an annoying name, but I didn't make it up. It's called Group 4 University of Florida Parents and Families. It says private. That's also super important, by the way. A lot of these pages are public, so when you
Mhm.
post or respond, everybody can see it. Everybody can see it. This is a private page, so the only people that can see what you're doing are people on that page. So you
Mhm.
don't want some of this information is very, very personal. You don't want everybody,
Sure.
in all over the world to see it. So we
Mhm.
take all that super seriously, and I think we do a really really good job at keeping everything within the group and respecting everybody's privacy and consideration.
Well, as a future parent of 3 gators come the fall, I am very appreciative of everything you guys do for the page. So thank you.
It's a
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. As always, please follow us on Instagram, Parent Coaches Unleashed. And if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us via email info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.